Hey guys, welcome back to the Thisissoul Shop YouTube channel. Today I'm going to tell you everything there is to know about inline skate frame lengths. If you don't want to watch the entire video and just want to have a short answer, then I would advise you to get about an 80mm frame length for foot that are up to size 42, and if you have size 43 or higher, get something like a 90mm frame length. So this is my current setup right now. I'm skating the next skate with a Demkov intuition liner, no 45-degree strap, wax laces, super feet insole, NN frame, and 100mm wheels. And it's a fairly long wheelbase. The wheelbase is measured from the center of the front axle to the center of the back axle. So it's not measured in the total length of the frame here, or even the front part of the wheel to the last part of the wheel. That's not what it is. It's the center of the axle to the back center axle. This is the point where you're tipping over. So it has a lot to do with maneuverability and stability. It's where the wheel touches the ground in the front and in the back as well. In this video I'm going to tell you everything there is to know about the differences between those lengths. But first let me tell you a little bit history about the topic. There have been a lot of experimental inline skates in even the 18th, the 19th century and the early 20th century. But the modern current day inline skate only arose in the 80s. It was designed by Rollerblade and made by the Roaches brand, and for every size it had a different frame length, and the frame was in a good proportion, in a good relationship to the foot length, and this is how it's actually is supposed to be. Right now we're in kind of a weird situation, and how we ended up there was that these first skates in the 80s, they were proper hard boots and they were kind of stable, so they gave good stability. But sometimes hard boots can be not for everybody, so the foot shapes are kind of specific. So if a skate doesn't fit you, then of course a brand cannot sell it to you. That's why soft boots are more flexible in the way that it fits, but they're also a lot worse as a skate. Often, at least, these cheap soft boots don't have a lot of support, and that's why good skaters will never skate on a cheap soft boot, because they know that this lack of support will also take away a lot of your control. So even if you're a beginner skater, I would not advise you to get a skate that you don't have control with. The skates that have different sizes for different frame length, they kind of morphed from being the hard boot type to being the soft boot types in the 90s. And the skates that kept being the hard boots were either aggressive skates, and they're not really good for skating around the city, or they were the freestyle slalom skates, which were just meant to be really maneuverable, so they had a really short wheelbase. So starting about 2000 till right about now, for 2 decades, if you wanted to get a good solid hard boot skate that's nice and stable, the only real option was to get a slalom skate, which would typically have something like a 4x80mm wheel setup. And this is fine if you have a small foot, but if you have big feet like me, I would advise to get a bigger size. And this is kind of a hole in the market right now that's currently being filled up. Because in recent years, people have discovered that there's actually a complete market for frames as well, because there's a few different mounting standards. So you can, as an aftermarket brand, you can easily make frames that can fit on a whole range of skates and sell your products like that. Also, the brands that sell skates themselves now realize that having always a short wheelbase is not for everybody. So we're starting to slowly see that there are now brands again that offer different frame length for different shoe sizes. This is great. There's a few different properties that different frame lengths have. let me go through all the different properties, the advantages and the disadvantages of having either a short or a long wheelbase. One of the things that's harder if you have a really long wheelbase is doing crossovers. So if you really like doing crossovers, just know that it's a little bit harder if you have a long wheelbase. I have a skate with a really long wheelbase myself. I can do crossovers just fine, so it's not like it's impossible if you have a long wheelbase, but it's definitely a little bit harder. Another property that comes with the frame length is heel and toe rolls. If you have a short wheelbase, then it's easier to do the heel or the toe rolls. So if you like doing those, get a short wheelbase. The next topic is stability. If you have a really long wheelbase, then it's really hard to fall, because the back axle is further away than your natural stance, than where your heel normally is. So you are more stable than normal. It's kind of like having a ski on your foot. Then if you have a short wheelbase, then it's really easy to tip over, because you're a lot more unstable than you're normally used to. The next topic is maneuverability. So if you want to be really maneuverable, then you should get a short wheelbase, because having a short wheelbase, it's easier to kind of like rotate on the ground. There's less friction with the wheels on the ground if you're trying to steer your feet, so it's easier to steer. A workaround solution into getting less friction with the ground when you're steering is to have your front and your back wheel a little bit higher from the ground. This is called a rocker. So it's possible to get the stability from a long wheelbase, and then if you have a rocker, to still get the maneuverability. And that's what I'm skating. Normally I would need something like a 4x90 setup if you think that I have shoe size 45, but I also really like to skate my 4x100 setup with a rocker. The last topic we're going to discuss is acceleration versus speed. This has something to do with torque, the amount of power you're able to put into one rotation of your foot. This is called a stride. If you have a short wheelbase, you're really maneuverable, and if you put in a lot of energy into your stride, then instead of going forward, you're going to put that energy into rotating your foot away. If you have a long wheelbase, you're less maneuverable, and then it's really slow to move in your stride, so you can put in a lot of energy to do so, and you can also get out a lot more speed. This has the same relation as having the shifts in your car. So having different gears in your car has the same relation to having a shorter or a longer wheelbase. The only difference is that in your car you can change gears while you're driving, and when you're skating you can only pick one gear. So as an average advice, as like a broad advice, I would suggest to get like sort of an average gear as well. Because if you have a really short wheelbase, it's comparable to having the first gear in your car. And the first gear in your car is maybe really nice if you only want to take off from the traffic lights and go. But as soon as you're actually driving, you really don't need it anymore. You can never go on the highway in your first gear. Having a super long wheelbase, so let's say you have like a 4x100 without a rocker, or like a 4x110 with no rocker. This is really comparable with your fifth gear in your car. Like, it's impossible to get any speed with it, and once you're going, you can no longer stop anymore. So I would advise you to get just like a setup that's just somewhere about the same length as your foot. So if you have small feet, get like something like 4x80. If you have big feet, get something like a 4x90 setup. Then you have like something comparable with like the second or the third gear in your car, and you can move around freely and go everywhere you like. So to summarize, that was just a lot of information, and now I'm just going to tell you all the aspects that we mentioned for short frames. If you have a short frame, then it's easier to do crossovers, it's easier to do heel and toe rolls with, and you're more maneuverable. Now let's talk about everything about long wheelbases. Long wheelbases are a lot more stable, so you're less likely to fall if you have a long wheelbase, and they're more suited for high speeds. Frame companies right now are not really good at telling how long the frames are that they're selling. The industry is slowly getting there, and the right way of doing it is in millimeters and in the frame length that we just discussed from the front to the last axle. If you want to kind of like calculate the frame length of a certain wheel setup, so mine is a 4x100, then you can see that there's like 3 distances of 100 millimeter here. So this is 3 times 100, and then there's 1 millimeter extra of room in between. So my frame length is 303 right now. The standard frame length that I mentioned before, 4x80, has like 3 times 80 here, and then 1 millimeter in between 3 times. So this frame length is 243. Let's do one more. This is a 4x90 setup. It has 3 times 90 millimeter in between, and then 3 times 1 millimeter in between. So in total, that is 270 plus 3, 273. If you want to buy an aftermarket frame, you can do so on our website, thisissoul.com. Or of course, you can come here to our store in Amsterdam and we'll help you out here in our store. That's no problem. On our website, however, we changed all the sizing information to the millimeter standards. So there's no longer like an S or an L or an M listed on our website. All the sizing information is the true millimeters from now on. So that's everything that I know about frame length. Is there anything we missed in this video? Is there anything else that you'd like to know? Please let us know in the comments so that we can all learn from each other over there. We make a new video like this every week. So if you like content like this, consider subscribing, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye bye. Only are relatable to having have as a subject, as a property. Yeah, that's the one. Thank you. So if you like doing those, get us your just talk. Toe and hoe roll and hoe rolls. Let's roll that hoe.